Jacob Hunter Reiner will teach you all sorts of music things.
During my second year of college, I read a short story by James Baldwin called Sonny's Blues. It's a wonderful story about two brothers, one of whom is a teacher and one of whom is a jazz pianist. I am forever grateful to the professor that assigned it because it completely changed the way I looked at music, and consequently, it changed my life. The whole story is amazing and well worth a read, but there's one passage in particular that dramatically shifted my perspective on improvisation. It occurs near the very end of the story. The teacher is watching his brother perform for the first time, and here is how he describes it.
Then they all gathered around Sonny, and Sonny played. Every now and again, one of them seemed to say, Amen. Sonny's fingers filled the air with life, his life. But that life contained so many others. And Sonny went all the way back. He really began with the spare, flat statement of the opening phrase of the song. Then he began to make it his. It was very beautiful because it wasn't hurried, and it was no longer a lament. I seemed to hear with what burning he had made it his, with what burning we had yet to make it ours. How we could cease lamenting. Freedom lurked around us, and I understood at last that he could help us to be free if we would listen, that he would never be free until we did. Yet there was no battle in his face now. I heard what he had gone through and would continue to go through until he came to rest in earth. He had made it his, that long line of which we only knew Mama and Daddy. And he was giving it back, as everything must be given back, so that passing through death, it can live forever. I saw my mother's face again, and felt for the first time how the stones of the road she had walked on must have bruised her feet. I saw the moonlit road where my father's brother died, and it brought something else back to me and carried me past it. I saw my little girl again, and felt Isabel's tears again, and I felt my own tears begin to rise. And I was yet aware that this was only a moment, that the world waited outside, as hungry as a tiger, and that trouble stretched above us, longer than the sky.
Those words bring tears to my eyes pretty much every time I read them. I imagine you could see the impact they could have on a person. Now, before I read Sonny's Blues, obviously I knew that music could help people understand each other better. But something about the way Baldwin described it, the idea that music for the first time could help somebody feel the way that the stones their mother walked on bruised her feet, just opened up a whole new world for me musically. From that moment on, the goal of my improvisation changed. Now, every time I improvise, I am setting out to understand the people in my life better. It doesn't always work, but I do want to share with you a time that it did. My band was hired to play a completely improvised set at my friend's art gallery. Towards the end of the night, I played this excerpt from a song that I wrote when I was 17. Now, I've played that part thousands of times, and I wanted to turn it into something new, so I looped it and I began playing this excerpt from another song I had written. As I worked to combine these two pieces of familiar music into something different, I became very aware of my mom's presence in the audience. My mom had just gotten back from a trip to Chicago, which is her hometown. About 3 months before the trip, my mom had officially separated from my father and moved into a new house with my brother. The separation relieved my mom of a very heavy burden, and in many ways, she was a new woman. In that moment, while I played, I realized that that trip to Chicago marked the first time she had revisited her hometown since she had separated from my father. I understood what an important experience it must have been for her to go back to the place where she grew up without the weight of my father on her shoulders. As I played, I could feel the excitement, relief, sadness, and optimism that my mother must have felt when she saw the city out of the window of her plane. And there's a chance there's some projection happening here, of course, but in that moment it really felt as if I understood something fundamental about my mom. The only reason I was able to connect with those feelings was because that's what I was trying to do. It's not that I was specifically setting out to understand my mom more, but I was intentionally trying to use the music to understand the people around me. Something about the process of transforming a familiar piece of music into something new mirrored my mom's recent experience, where she went back to a city that was very familiar and it was made new by the context of her life. I made this video for two reasons. First, I think every musician should be familiar with that passage from Sonny's Blues. Second, it's easy as a musician to lose sight of the fact that music is supposed to be used as a tool to make your life better. There's a whole lot of problems with insecurity and ego which sometimes muddle that point. I know in the past I have used music for unhealthy purposes, and I know I will again in the future, to show off, to feel superior, even to manipulate. And there's space for those things in music because music has to reflect the things that are ugly, just like it has to reflect the things that are beautiful. But I hope this video can serve as a personal reminder to help me focus on the things that I want to use music to accomplish. Before this video ends, I do want to give a quick shout out to Brady Fellows. He is the incredibly talented artist I commissioned to do the illustration that you saw earlier in the video, and he brought those images to life in a way that was even better than I imagined. Check his Instagram out, it is in the description, go give him a follow as well. Also, huge thanks to Garrison Jones and Dom Crooks for helping me out with the jazz jam portion that went underneath the illustration. Garrison Jones is in a band called House of Stairs that is absolutely incredible, and Dom is in a band called Brother Teresa, which is also amazing. Links to their Instagrams as well as their band Instagrams are in the description. Give them a follow, please.